I've been involved with this locomotive since 2007 when the railroad here in Alamosa purchased it. I was working for them at the time. We moved it from Oregon here and put the engine in service in the spring of 2008. Ran it through 2013 when they quit running the steam locomotive here.
It was brought here because it had a much greater pulling capacity than the first engine that was brought here. The 1744 was a former Southern Pacific unit that was not quite suited to the mountain grade that we have, and the 18 was a much stronger unit that was better suited to running excursions on the pass.
I helped revitalize it. Actually, when we first got it, I helped bring her back into service. And then I spent time running her, test running her, how she would do on the high grades of the Vita Pass, because she was running on 3.7% grades. And helped test her, get her running, and then spent a few years in service with her. We figured that I have something like 38,000 miles on these.
Logistically, we came to disassemble this locomotive and facilitate the relocation of it from Alamosa, Colorado to Boyertown, Pennsylvania. This engine's going to be put back in service, so everything has to be done methodically and surgically. It has to be thought through so that reassembly can be made as easily as possible, and we don't compromise anything that doesn't need to be compromised.
Basically, depending on how we want to load it and how we want to disassemble it, we look for everything that connects the boiler to the frame. So like all the bolts around the cylinder saddle were removed, all the bolts on the waste sheets, the furnace bearers, and then all associated plumbing that connected between the two were disassembled, as well as any hardware that could be lost or damaged during shipping was removed for safekeeping.
We took the windows out of the cab. A special crate was made for them so that they didn't get damaged. We plywooded up all the windows in the cab to protect anything that was left in the cab. We had to cut and fit special braces from the bottom of the firebox fire door to the roof of the cab to help support the cab once it was lifted off the chassis, because the cab floor was no longer going to be part of the engine. There were bolts that had to be burned out. There was a sheet that had to be cut in a specific way to make it easy to be put back together. So there's a lot of planning, and some of it can't be done until you're on site and you start disassembly, because with all of these things, we're talking about a locomotive that was built in 1910. It's 111 years old. It was completely rebuilt and modernized in 1929, but it's had work done to it over the years. So you find hidden things that have been done that may or may not have supposed to be been there, and you go, oops, we got to take that apart, or we have to cut that, or we have to do something to get that apart, but the same token be able to put it back together. There are certain things that have to be removed. In this particular case, an example was the entire cab floor because of close clearance to the boiler, and that was done while we could have easily taken the thing apart without removing the cab floor. It would have presented a very interesting challenge to put the thing back together with having the floor in there because clearances were so tight.
What you're seeing here is we're starting to cut the bolts and the rivets from the various waste sheets and smoke box saddles so we can remove the boiler from the chassis. We have to split the locomotive into 3 pieces to ship it by truck across country. Stephen Butler doing the torch work.
A 53-foot long tractor trailer come in, and we loaded pallet after pallet of all the parts that were disassembled from this engine onto this truck and shipped it east. So an entire truckload of loose parts left here. Piping, brackets, beams, the list goes on, sheeting, windows for the cab, the pilot assembly, the cow catcher.
Time is quickly approaching that we're going to be moving the locomotive outside. So here we are starting to lubricate and oil all the moving parts for the move from inside the shop over to the track where we're going to load. What?